911. What's your emergency? This is 911 emergency. What are you reporting
to? Welcome back, everybody, to We Speak Dispatch. We have an interesting topic today for you. We're going to be talking about attitude. We do have John with us and Doug and Leslie in the same location from the headquarters of Doug. So anyhow, we're going to do it a little bit different. You've heard a lot of topics and it's just a discussion, but this one is going to be a question I'm going to pose to both of them. I'm going to throw it to John first. And John, you have to give your answer in a yes or no. And whichever one he picks, Doug and Leslie, I want you to disagree with him. And then we'll talk about what our real answer is to end the session. Okay. And today's topic is all about attitude. And from where we've taught, I know you bring it up and you say the word attitude and the class just instantly starts to laugh and you haven't said anything because a lot of times, sometimes there is a little bit of attitude inside the walls of 911 centers. So the question I have for John
what is he saying?
Yeah. The question I have for John is, John, you cannot have a bad attitude and encourage others at the same time. Is that true or false?
False.
Really?
And go ahead and give your reason as to why you can have a bad attitude and encourage people at the same time.
Because I can be a good actor. I can have a bad day coming in or something have just went wrong, but based on who I'm talking to, I could easily change my views or my position or my attitude. Basically, it could be either the person or the topic on which the person's engaging me on. So I think it's false.
Wow. Leslie, throw it out there.
I would say that that's true. You cannot have a bad attitude and lead someone, because while you may be a good actor, to some degree, I think that your true self will eventually precede you. And that if you are the type of person who is fake it till you make it kind of thing, dispatchers, especially in communication centers, are very in tune with people's body language and voice inflection and things like that. And unless you are an Oscar-winning performer, I think that eventually that might last for a little bit, but that they're going to figure you out. And I think that
and the big problem is with that, once they figure you out, you'll never get trusted again. Because they'll always think, are you lying this time or that time? Which one were you doing it? So
Yeah.
I don't think you can have that kind of bad attitude and lead. You just can't.
Yes. And for me, when it comes to attitude, you can hear it through the phone and the radio.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can hear it in both ways, whether it's a good attitude or a bad attitude. And what I've found is I think dispatchers get a little bit of a longer rope, so to speak, when somebody complains, if they have a positive attitude and are willing to help the citizens and or the officers, firefighters, or paramedics. So how do you think attitude impacts a 911 dispatcher's job on a day-to-day basis?
I think it impacts because the citizens won't cooperate with you on the phone. If you're throwing out an attitude to somebody, they're not going to, if this is the police, what do you need? And they're not going to want to cooperate with you. That attitude's going to be clear.
Yeah, it's going to always, also the citizen will just call up and say, let me speak to your supervisor.
Yeah.
God. And then it's like, ugh. And then my bad attitude just got worse. Because now that they're going to make a complaint and you don't know how the supervisor is going to handle it or who's going to handle it and what the determination is going to be.
Yeah.
Or
so how is it in 911 that we keep up dealing with everything that we deal with? Working mandatory overtime, maybe being short-staffed, equipment that might be old and might not work, whatever it might be, refrigerators that haven't been cleaned in months.
Oh, God. Yes.
Okay. Whatever it might be, how is it that we keep a positive attitude working in 911? If attitude is really important and it plays a part in everything that we do, how is it that we encourage 911 dispatchers to keep and have and maintain a positive attitude?
Wow. I think it's because down deep, not superficially, but down deep, I think dispatchers know the difference they make all the time on calls and when they're saving somebody's life and all that stuff. And I think some of that other stuff is so superficial, like who didn't clean out the refrigerator? Who is it?
Yeah.
I think that's just like, it's superficial. It's not the impact of your life. You're going to go home and do your own refrigerator and hopefully not screw that up. But it's like people let these little tiny things become big things because I think they just don't want to admit that, man, what I do is I rock this place. I mean, I save lives. People are walking around the streets because of what we do.
Right.
I mean, I think it's just so powerful. I think they do realize it down deep, and they let these little things pop up, gossiping and people saying stuff. So, yeah.
Well, that could be their way of blowing off steam, or those little ancillary kind of things that really don't impact the way I talk on the phone or the radio.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if we can just make those easy, then there's less of an issue.
And I do think that having that positive attitude, and, you know, as I'm thinking this, I'm going back to what John led with is, you know, that he's a good actor, that having a good attitude or a positive attitude really is, it's a conscious decision. You can, you know, you can make that decision when you walk through the door, today's going to be a great day. And while there's still going to be stuff that happens, you've already made the decision that today's going to be a great day. And whether that's acting or whether that's, you know, you feel as though you're disingenuine, if you approach everything with that mindset. And I think, and I'll just use myself as an example, you know, we're used to work in life like this. And so sometimes we don't stop and think. When we have time to stop and think, we just jump in with 2 feet. And so spending that extra couple seconds at the beginning of your shift to say, okay, this is my plan, this is what I'm going to do, that maybe that can have an impact on your attitude that will carry you through the rest of the day. And if you surround yourself with, you know, people who support that process, you know, if I come to you and say, hey, Joe, you know, I said it was going to be a great day, I'm really struggling, and Joe says, yep, I know, I hear you, and kind of bumps me up a little bit more, okay, great, let me go back out there and do it. And that's hopefully what, you know, these discussions as we speak dispatch and the people that you work with in your center, that hopefully, just imagine if everybody took that extra couple seconds when they walk through the doors of their comm center and said, okay, today's going to be a great day. Just the level of efficiency and positivity. And then I can turn to you and say, okay, that one was really hard. And he can say, it's okay, you're going to get through it. And so it's a team effort. So maybe attitude is a team sport.
Yeah. And I was going to go with a few words to improve attitude in a comm center. And the first one is relationships. And Leslie, you were kind of talking on that, everybody together and teamwork. But the big one for me that I've noticed has improved not only my own attitude, but other people's attitudes throughout comm centers is involvement. And what I mean by that is if you get somebody behind the idea and it's their idea, and you let them kind of move that forward for the department, maybe give some input as a leader and guide it and everything else. But the more your dispatchers are involved, the more they're going to have a positive attitude. And it's really hard because there are a lot of supervisor tasks in the 911 departments that the supervisor or manager or director or whatever it might be have to do. And some things they just cannot let other people do. But the more we can involve and start building career paths and everything else, and I've talked about it on a few other episodes, for dispatchers, the more their attitude's going to improve in my mind. So John, what's one thing you could do at your agency to involve your dispatchers more?
Solicit input. I think that's really where, in involvement, I hear two other words come to mind, are buy-in and engagement.
Yeah.
So with both of those, it's, I want to be heard. You know, high-performing organizations want to hear from those who work in the organization. It's not always a top-down kind of mandate kind of thing, because ultimately what is decided affects the front line. So get that involvement is soliciting their input and comment on issues when it is possible.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
That's good.
And Doug, what would you do if you go into a comm center and you're training a class and the host comes to you and says, look, we kind of have an attitude and a morale type problem at this agency, and we struggle to keep our employees. What's one of the messages you're going to give in that class that you're instructing?
I mean, I'm sure all of us that have trained classes have heard this before. So we've all had a host come to us at the last minute going, oh my God, these people are trouble.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I think people just want to be heard. I think they feel like they're not being listened to. And so when they come into the class and I ask them like, what's been going on here? And they're telling you, I mean, actually respond and talk to them and figure out what the hell's happened. And I've told many directors after the class, I'm like, they seem great to me. I don't know. Because I said, sometimes I feel like my job as a supervisor is to be like almost like a counselor. I bring them in, we talk about what's going on, we figure out the solution to these things, and we send them back out. I'm not a dictator. I'm not going to say we're going to do it this way and that's the way it is and tough shit. It's like, I think so. Sometimes people need to be heard. I mean, you know, I think sometimes people get a little nervous, and they feel like nobody's listening to what they're saying, and they really are listening. So
Yeah. Well, and as Doug is talking, with quite a foul mouth, by the way. One of the things,
I'll beep it out.
And building on those concepts is communication. We have to be able to openly communicate and honestly communicate. I think there are times when maybe as a supervisor or a manager, as a director, you're not giving the real message because maybe it's a hard pill to swallow, or you know that there's going to be pushback, so you kind of sugarcoat it a little bit. And so some people get it and some people don't. And so I think along with engagement and investment and, you know, talking to people, that the talking to people and all of those things includes being honest in your communication.
Yeah.
Hey, if things are going to be bad, hey, I'm sorry you're going to have to work overtime. Hey, I'm sorry we're going to have to do this next program, but we're going to do it together. I think that honest communication and that candid communication allows people to go, okay, she or he's not trying to gloss this over, and they're respecting me as an adult. Hey, tell me the tough information, and then moving through it.
Yeah, and communication, Leslie, I think is huge. One time when I was teaching a class, one of the questions got posed to me from a person in the class, and it was about like, how would you handle a dispatcher that is doing a bad job on the phones, and it's all about attitude. And I was giving my answer, and then on the other side of the room, another person spoke up and said, but what about this? And then I noticed the person that asked the question came back and and it took me just a second, but what I realized was he was the supervisor or manager, and she happened to be a dispatcher at the agency. And there was
pitting you against each other.
And they went, yeah, and so they were kind of pitting me against them. So I finally figured that out relatively quickly, but not as quickly as the people that worked with them that knew, like, oh boy, this is interesting.
Here we go.
You know, and so I just told them that I would stay after class, and that I would end class about 10 minutes early, and I'd like talk to both of them.
Yeah.
And I just talked to them, and by the time the 10 minutes was up, all it was a communication, and neither one was hearing or listening to each other. And during those 10 minutes, I really didn't even say anything, and they walked out of there feeling much better because it was in a setting that was kind of neutral with somebody else just listening. That's all I did. I didn't do a lot. So, you know, I would encourage people to communicate with your bosses, communicate with each other and your coworkers, check on each other. And that's been our episode on attitude here at We Speak Dispatch. If you want to be on a future episode, please email us at wespeakdispatch@gmail.com. Please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And we are also on several different podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, Anchor, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, and Overcast. And we hope to see you on an episode soon. With that being said, take a positive attitude to work. It does make a difference when you can, and rely on your coworkers to pull you out when you can't. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you guys soon. Thanks for all that you do.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thanks.
Bye now.
911. What's your emergency? This is the police department. How can I help you? 911 emergency reporting.